This video is actually in response to somebody else on YouTube who has been posting stuff about the Mandela effect, and he's very concerned about what he's experiencing with the Mandela effect. Well, I have a theory, and most likely the theory is probably going to be the closest thing to as accurate as possible.
I am broadcasting on all AM frequencies. I will be at the South Street Seaport every day at midday, when the sun is highest in the sky. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, I can provide food, I can provide shelter, I can provide security. If there's anybody out there, anybody, please, you are not alone.
We live in a simulated reality, and in a simulated reality, it's run off of a program. So I'm going to show you something real fast. These are floppy disk. Anybody who's old enough to know anything about computers, you know, from back in the day, remembers the old floppy disk. Well, when you would write a program or you would write information or data on a floppy disk, you could rewrite over top of it later on if you wanted to. The problem was, the more you wrote, the more you erased and wrote new stuff over top and new stuff over top, new stuff over top. Eventually, some data would bleed through, it would corrupt through onto the data, your new data. In other words, if I wrote something, let's say the cat jumped over the moon, and that was like the first thing I wrote on the floppy disk, and then later on, you know, I keep rewriting new stuff and have erased that and rewrite. And I'm talking about the older computers. I'm going to show you a picture real quick, what type of computers I'm talking about. So computers like this. And you would write new stuff. So the screen was very, had that green, like, you know, when you watch my videos, you see that stuff from the Matrix, the way the Matrix in the movies, they have the green letters and stuff. Well, that's the way it was. So you would sometimes see old data bleed through. This has happened with any type of photogenic mechanics since even pictures. When they would take pictures a long time ago with old cameras, sometimes an image would burn through inside of, I don't know exactly how the mechanisms work, guys, but there would be an old image, an image would burn through, and you would take new pictures, and sometimes you would pick up remnants of that old image that was in there. And I will put that in the video as I'm talking so you can understand what I mean by seeing something from a previous video or a previous picture or a previous data that bled through. This is the Mandela effect. This is what's happening. What you're experiencing isn't all a bunch of stuff that you remember from a thing being all one way in just one specific world that you may think that you're in. This is literally this program that we're in, this 1972 to the 2020 program that we are in right now. You're hearing a lot of this on the internet right now. People are talking about, you know, there's going to be civil war and all this disaster that's going to happen at the end of this year and stuff, you know, because that's where it's all pointing to. And I keep showing proof of 1972 and 2020, how they're linked together. And yes, 1972 is the birth and 2020 is the end. And a lot of people keep using the same word. And what word is that they use? That the elites are getting ready for a great reset, or the world is getting ready for a great reset. Well, what do you do on a computer or a video game? So like here, I'm showing you a picture of 1972 is when Pong came out. You know, so since we're talking about video games, what do you do when you want to start over? You reset the game, right? And Pong came out in 1972. Also, you know, Atari came out in 1972. There's the old Atari machine. Odyssey came out in 1972. These are all the first time there was home video games. What I want you to understand, I'm trying to make this video really short because I'm just addressing the Mandela effect and what it means to simulate reality, is every time the program runs and ends and runs and ends and runs and ends, it's slightly different. Because the 172 thinkers, and I know this may be, if you don't know anything about my other videos, you're just going to have to watch them, because I'm going to use in terms that you won't understand. The 172 thinkers are helping shape the reality. They're helping, they help mold the reality. The set program is there. In other words, the setting of everything. Like 1972 is the last time they got a full picture of Earth. Why is that? Well, because that's the map. That's the 1972 map. Although all the technology moved forward, yet they couldn't take those cameras that they're seeing all these planets way out in space, and these other Earths and stuff. They cannot turn that son of a bitch around and take one good, clear, full picture of Earth. 1972 was the last full, clear picture of Earth because that's when the map was set. Every time we keep going through this, and the 172 thinkers, they slightly change things. So for you, what you're experiencing is not there was just one whole, a lot of things are completely different in one time. Because I had kind of thought this at one time before I really understood and saw these facts on 1972. That it's not from another world that you're from, it's literally multiple times that we've been through these different simulations, multiple times. So when you're seeing like something like Jiffy was spelt differently, it may have been spelt differently 14 runs ago in the simulation, okay? So 14 times ago in the simulation, something had slightly changed, and it changed the way the Jiffy was spelled. Maybe 50 times ago, there was something that, like the Berenstein or Berenstein, these things only slightly changed because the 172 thinkers who were inside, the 172 thinkers that are inside the pods, there's no guarantees that their minds are completely solid. Because a lot of people went into those pods. Most people go into those pods because they're sick, they're dying, they're going to die. So this is a life extension for them. So some things in their mind may be slightly off, and it screws with the program, and it's making other people see it may have made names of things or certain events that happen, like the Tiananmen Square. Those things may be remembered slightly different for some of those people that are in the pods, and it changed it in a run from this program that ran maybe 100 times ago. And now what you're experiencing now, you most likely will experience it again in the next run. So if we're in run, let's say we're in run, I'm just going to use a number. We'll say we're in run number 88. Let's say we're in the 88th cycle of this same simulation, running over and over and over, the 1972 to 2020. We're in the 88th cycle. When we go through 89 cycle, almost all the stuff that you're experiencing now and have experienced throughout these 48 years, if you live that long, is going to be most likely as close to the same as it was 88 runs ago. There will be slight differences each and every time. There's no way that it can be possible that all the 172 thinkers that are actually inside of the program, that all their brains are always going to play out the same scenarios, always make the same decisions. That's not how human brains work. The program is set up, it's always going to pretty much have the same foundation, but inside, if you don't know much about video games, there's some video games where you can play a character, the world is already set up, your character already has a family, the family knows you, there's already people in the village that know you, you have a home, you have all these things, so your character already just jumps right into this world. You as the player, as the person who's playing that character, understand that the character is in it's in its own virtual world, but the character actually itself does not understand that, because it doesn't set up dialogue for the character to sit there and question and talk back and forth with the NPCs and to make them, hey, I just logged in from a video game. I don't know if that's very clear, if you guys can understand that or not. So that's what it is. The scenario is already set up. When you come in from the 1972 to 2020, the scenario is already set up. But in that game, in the video game, when you play characters like this, you can change things. So every time you play the game, you can make different decisions, and different decisions will slightly change the outcome of the end game. Okay, so like you started the game in 1972, end game's 2020. So whatever decisions you made in this 48 years will slightly affect the end of 2020, the end of end game. So there you go, guys. I hope that helps you understand about the Mandela effect a little bit more in a different perspective. We are in a simulated reality. I know there are going to be people who watch this and they're not going to understand it. You're going to have to watch my videos, and I have a video. If you can't understand, I have videos that will explain why you can't understand that. Look up my videos on NPCs in the Matrix and NPCs that will protect the system of the Matrix, protect the systems in the Matrix. You need to watch those videos. And you literally, if you really can't understand, then it's not your fault. You're not supposed to understand. For those of you who can't understand, keep paying attention, keep digging, keep looking. There's just so much stuff that happened in 1972. Like I said, I was showing you, computers and stuff and floppy disk. And this guy here, Bill Gates, here he is holding a floppy disk. Bill Gates actually become anything until 1972. Here's the inside of Apollo 17, their station, NASA, when was the last time they went to the moon. Here's all the computers there. I'm not saying that the computers that are running the program for the 1972 to 2020 program are actually computers that were just created in 1972, which you got to understand. If you watched one of my videos, I brought this up before, where in the movie The Matrix, Agent Smith tells Morpheus while he's got him locked up, and he ejects this serum into his neck to tell him the truth, the old truth serum. But he tells him that your primitive minds kept waking up from the Matrix because we gave you a perfect reality. We gave you an easy life existence, but you refused to accept it. In other words, they were seeing things like what I am seeing right now, what I am presenting to you. This whole 1972, that whole thing with the time glitch in 1972, it's the same thing as pretty much as what he's explaining, that when there's too much holes in a reality, like in the year 1972 and now in 2020, it won't let the host actually accept it. The host will reject it. So they had to add in certain difficulties and stuff like that to make it harder on the thinker who's actually inside of the Matrix. And then he further goes on to explain to him that they had to redesign the Matrix to the peak of your civilization. Every time the Matrix will play out the peak of their civilization, and it'll restart, it'll reset, it'll reboot, it'll start over. In other words, even in the movie The Matrix, there's always going to be the end game. And look, The Matrix has a lot of flaws to it, period. But it's a nice way for me to explain to you and for you to understand kind of what I'm trying for you to get my point across so that you can understand this better. I did not literally sit around for years trying to figure out our existence and why we're here and everything. I was a devout Christian for most of my life. I know all 66 books in the Bible, so I lived that life too at one time. An event, and then there was some time when those things changed for me. But an event happened to me in 2017, and after that event happened to me in 2017, my mind was unlocked in a way that I couldn't understand, that I was seeing a bunch of things, not like seeing things running down the street or crap like that, but I was seeing connections to things that were just so evident and so apparent that it's just like, how come nobody else sees these connections? How did nobody else see all these connections? There's just too much. It's too overwhelming to deny that there's not something that's going on. And I'm going to give you a real quick one real fast. And I was going to save this for a video, and maybe I should do a video on it. So a real quick one on connections. The all-seeing eye that's on the dollar, which is over top of the pyramid, correct? Okay, well, what is our national animal in America? It's the eagle. What was also the national animal pretty much in Germany? The eagle. If you look at Hitler, he's standing in front, when he does a big speech, he's standing in front of a big eagle. What was the other civilization that also had the same thing, had the same bird, had the same eagle? Was Rome. In fact, there was a movie about it. where they were protecting, where they had to go get the eagle that they used to carry. In all three of those civilizations, America, Germany, and ancient Rome, they all carried the eagle on a banner on their flag into battle. It was always a big thing. Where do you research that back to? And this is going to get way on a whole other topic. You can research that all the way back to Egypt. Okay, and then you look at Egypt, and you had what? You had the eye of Horus, right? You had Horus, who was the bird god. Well, what was the other bird creatures? And that's why you have the eye of Horus. That's why it's on the dollar bill, and that's why they had the pyramid. There's no Egyptian pyramids in the United States, so why is that even on your dollar bill? It has nothing, as far as you know, to do with this country at all. But it's on your currency, which, by the way, 1972 is when the currency changed from being, in 1971, Nixon stopped the currency from being backed by gold, and in 1972, it became only legal tender. So there's another 1972 for you. But if you look at the dollar bill, yeah, it has the eagle on the other side. That all goes back to Egypt. It all goes back to if you go back and you look at the eagle and all that, and the bird god from Egypt, that was Horus, the eye of Horus. You all see an eye. And if you want to go even further deeper into that, what was the ancient aliens that were bird-like creatures? They were the Anunnaki. Bam. So there you go. There's another little tip for you, a little thing where I'm saying is these things that just keep... I don't sit around and have to try to think up these things. I literally go, there's a movie with, I see a thing with Hitler. I look at our country, and then all of a sudden I notice there's a movie on Rome, and there's the eagle. Boom, boom, boom. All three of these cultures. So I'll make another video on that later. I know we're talking about the Mandela effect. I just want to explain to you briefly where these things come to me and how they come to me. It's not that I sat around trying to think them up and try to figure out things. It literally just, it's not how it happens. It doesn't work like that for me. It's ever since 2017, and something happened to me and my brain came unlocked, that all this information just keeps coming and coming and coming. So yes, guys, if I was to say, for you, I'm going to use the word if, but for me, I'm going to use the word as a matter of a fact, okay, as fact. But for you, if we are living in a simulated reality, the Mandela effect is nothing more than remnants or corruption from old data from other runs of the same simulation that just keeps running. And let me explain one more time real quick. When you play a video game or when you run a simulation, you run it from one point you run it from a beginning point to an end point. There is no, they just let it run and run and run and run and run. There's a beginning and there's an end, and then you restart it. Just like most video games you play. There's a beginning and there's an end. There's an end game. And 2020 most likely is end game, and that's what you're experiencing from the Mandela effect. And now you're probably going to, because we're getting closer to the end, you most likely are going to experience it. I can't say this for a fact because I don't know on this, so I don't want to make stuff up, but it's a possibility you may start experiencing the Mandela effect more and more and more frequently and more frequently the closer we get to the end of this year. If you're experiencing it, and I noticed in the comments people were saying that it all started, a lot of them started for them in 2016, which is funny because the event that happened to me was in 2017. It was a major thing, an unexplained event. If it started for you in 2016 and it's getting closer and closer and closer to 2020, it's probably happening more and more and more and more to you. So there you go. I hope this helps out a lot, helps explain a lot for you guys of why you're experiencing this, where this is coming from. I used to also look into the Mandela effect some years, a few years back, and just because I was curious, and I thought, hey, maybe it's possible that there are different realms and stuff. And that made sense. It made a lot of sense. That, hey, we could have just moved from one realm to another. Some weird event could have happened after 2012 or whatever. We moved from, people, a certain amount of people moved from one realm to another. But then again, now that I'm seeing all these facts that point to that we are definitely in a simulated reality, it makes more sense that corrupt data just keeps bleeding through every time they keep rebooting the system and keep running the same thing over and over and over, the 1972 to 2020. That's pretty much it. It's a flaw in the system, and that's what the Mandela effect is. Don't let it freak you out. Don't let it destroy your life. Don't let it consume you, but let it keep expanding your mind. Let it keep opening up other possibilities instead of just focusing on that. Try to understand where it's coming from. Or yeah, if you find more things, post them. I don't care if you have a channel with 3 subscribers. If you're talking about something that has to do with Mandela effect and you want to come on this video, you can leave a comment and tell me, hey, I want to leave my test. I want you to check out my testimony. I will go and watch it, and I will leave a comment on there because I want to know what you're experiencing too. This isn't like I'm sitting on some throne here. Trust me, that's not. I don't put my face, my name, or anything because I have a life that I kind of have to protect, just like a lot of you, outside of the things that I'm talking about on these videos. So anyhow, I hope that helps out, and I'm gonna play a short thing here for you from a little clip from a movie, and maybe that'll also help explain a little bit.
In memory of the 2,996 lives that were lost that day. 2,996. Come on. What the hell is this?